Is a strange kind of a title, but bear with me. It's going to be a difficult one to get across, but I'll do my best. The title is The Groom Believes the Best. Okay, now picture the groom is on the altar, and there he is. He believes the best. He looks at his bride, and he's very, very much in love with her. He's very much attracted in every way to the bride, and he believes the best. He doesn't necessarily see 30 years down the road or 20 years down the road. But
Careful, Larry.
Okay, I know this is why I said this is going to be an interesting one. But the groom believes the best. Now, that can be a very positive thing or it can be a very negative thing. I have been caught out a couple of times when I have been believing the best because it blinds me to what is. However, in other circumstances, believing the best has been a very positive thing because that has brought the best out of whatever type of situation or planning I've been involved in. I put the blushing bride or the handsome groom go to the altar believing that a certain lifestyle awaits them. The man or woman starting a company also believes that profits are sure to come, all right? We would cite numerous endeavors, but the fact that we rarely take into account is that resistance is going to happen in either case. Whether it be for the positive or for the negative, there's going to be resistance against the plans that you make. That's just the way things are. It can be dangerous to go into a venture believing that it will go exactly as we believe at the outset. Now, it has been my experience, and I don't want to say this cynically because it's not necessarily cynical. Everything that you plan or that you go for can have a positive or a negative outcome, but it never goes the way we envision it at the beginning, at the outset. There are always modifications along the road, and this is because of the resistance that it's going to encounter. And even sometimes I've had it where the Lord has stepped in and said, wait a minute, I want you to do this instead of, and the vision alters slightly. I'll give you an idea of how that works. Now, when I wrote my first book and it was somewhat successful, I thought, okay, God wants me to go on a speaking tour. He wants me to be a motivational speaker because, as you know, I don't find it difficult to speak in front of people. I've been a showman. I've been on stages most of my life. It's part of my being. It doesn't bother me. When I prepare a sermon, I don't excoriate over it. I don't get all weird about it. Just, okay, what's God saying? And I'm going to try and get this across. Quite simple, really. But the Lord did not want me to do that. However, I put into place everything so that it would work if He wanted it that way. I did all the publicity. I did the things. I tried to hook up with certain people who would open doors for me and stuff like that. And after a few years, I thought, okay, you don't want me to do that, do you? And He says, no. So I had this vision at the start because I have a real burden for something. I have a burden for men, personally. I really believe that men, if we can just get the men in this world to man up, that this world will change dramatically because we are kind of the engine room of society. The women are extremely important, but that's why they are there to help us because we need it. We need help from our women. Now, I'll give you another anecdote of where there was something negative. That was a positive outcome because here I am now working on the strength of what God has directed my vision to be, okay? Now, on a negative sense, we went to a Bible college in Horsham for 2 years, and looking back on it, I should have, after about 2 weeks, seen there was deception in this church. I should have left after 2 weeks. But I had this in my mind where I actually wanted it to succeed. I even, for the first time in my life, moved house for a church. I always swore up and down I would never do that because I knew how volatile or how unstable most churches are. But this one, I did it because I really believed it was the right thing. So I wanted to believe. And what that did is that blinded me to many signs that were very, very clear that this was a cult, not a church. Okay. And we got wrapped up in it and got damaged with it. If I had listened to Judy, it would have been a lot better because I could already see by the second year that it wasn't going well. But I kind of waylaid the signs as normal humanity, or, they're just people after all, and, giving them a great deal of rope. But the fact that I was looking at it through rose-tinted glasses blinded me. And this is very rare for me because I'm quite a realistic person. But anyway, so there is a good part of that, to believing the best, and there can be a bad part. Let's go to Luke chapter 14 now, verses 28 and 29.
But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first getting estimates and then checking to see if there is enough money to pay the bills? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of funds, and then how everyone would laugh at you.
Mm-hmm. So note how the builder first has to sit down. This is something in culture that we would lose if we didn't know this, is that to be sitting down in Jewish culture is formal, whereas standing up is passive. Now to us, it's exactly the other way around. If I stand up and I make my presence felt close to you, then you can see that I'm becoming formal. I'm becoming pointed, intentional, etc. But in Jewish culture, it's the sitting down that is formal in that respect. So he says, note that the builder first sits down and he calculates. Now, you having built things, you'll understand that when you're doing estimates and tenders, you've got to take into account many types of situations. You've got to get your building materials. You got to pay for your labor. But another thing that I always did when I did estimations, I don't know if you guys do this, I always give 20% leeway, because there's going to be unforeseen circumstances and overruns and delays that is going to happen when you try to construct something. It's always been my opinion that happens. So I always add on something in order to allow for this. Now, he knows that there's a process that has to be enacted for the tower to be built. So the man has to have a vision of that process, doesn't he? He's got to see the workers handling the trowels and the diggers and motor graders and the foundations being sunk in and things like that. He takes apart all the possible stages for the success or failure of the construction. Now, one of the things I've always felt that was really, really terrible is the Italian government has laws to where they will tax you quite a bit more if your building project is finished. So all over Italy, you see thousands of houses and buildings half built. Yeah. And I look at that and I think, shame on you people to put a law like that into place. How stupid can you be? That is so off base. Now the question is, does the builder make allowances for unforeseen events? Now, when I went into this church type situation and moved house and everything, I didn't do that. I just put everything into this and I thought, okay, this is it. Come hell or high water, sorry for the pun, I'm going to stick with these people. It was a mistake. Obviously, it was a mistake. So now, I want to take the case of Rachel and Jacob and Leah and Laban, because it's a perfect example of this type of problem. Jacob sees Rachel and he falls immediately in love with her. So let's go Genesis 29. We're going to stay in Genesis for a while. Lovely book, Genesis. My favorite, actually, one of my favorites. The dawn of time. Huh? Genesis 29 and verses 10 to 12 to start. We're going to stay in this up to verse 30, but let's start with 10 to 12, okay?
And because she was his cousin, the daughter of his mother's brother, and because the sheep were his uncle's, Jacob went over to the well and rolled away the stone and watered his uncle's flock. Then Jacob kissed Rachel, and tears came to his eyes. He explained that he was her cousin on her father's side, her Aunt Rebecca's son.
The interesting situation. Rachel, first of all, he sees Jacob sees Rachel and immediately falls head over heels in love with her. You know, so the lovely story. Now, at that time, you did marry your cousins. I know that to us it's kind of, but that wasn't the custom. See, they wanted to marry within the faith, especially, and not marry outside the faith. Now,
sorry, it was to do with inheritance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you want to keep it in the family. I like the idea of rolling the stone away. You know, the angel rolled the stone away. So the stone off the well, we dig into the well of salvation. Imagery here is quite clear to me. It's a lovely thing. Now, Jacob was so moved because he sees Rachel and he falls in love with her. And not only that, he sees, oh, and I can have her because she is according to my clan. So he's all excited now. He's thinking this is quite good. Now let's read from verses 13 to 20. You want to do that one, Mervyn? Can you do it?
What?
13 to 20.
As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him into his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. Then Laban said to him, "You are my flesh and blood." Up to where?
Up to 20.
After Jacob had stayed with him for a while, for a whole month, Laban said to him, "Just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, and Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you for 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her.
Isn't that beautiful? They seem to be only a couple of days because of his love for her. I think that's just beautiful. Now, Jacob then meets Laban, the father of Rachel, okay? And as in any agreement, we have to rely on the good faith of the other party, don't we? When we enter into something, we believe that the other person is going to have the same type of ideas that we have, or the same type of morals, the same type of ethics, okay? Now, as in, Laban starts the negotiations, doesn't he? He says, okay, you're not going to work for nothing for me. So there has to be a bride price. There has to be lobola. There has to be. Okay, and that was something that comes from a long ways away. From the dawn of time comes lobola. Lobola is the bride price, where you buy your wife. It's
normally with cows or sheep.
Yeah, it sounds.
Chickens even.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but it's not.
Do you know when my father was travelling, I think it was Saudi Arabia, he was offered camels for my mother.
Was he? How many?
3, I think.
I would have said no too. I'm joking. That is good. So Laban initiates the negotiations, but I believe that Jacob unwisely proposes the terms. I'll work for you for 7 years. Now, the problem is that Laban also sees that whatever Jacob does prospers. He's got that Joseph anointing. He's got that Daniel anointing. Everything just multiplies in his hands. He's just one of those people. We have some people like that here in our area that just what they touch just goes, whoa! And here we are working ourselves to the bone, and we get a couple of scraps thrown at us. And that's all right. I'll take my scraps. It's all right. But I would have loved to have been one of those guys, where it is, wah!
Yeah,
Huh?
but there's a cost, isn't
There is. So, in order for us to look into now, the agreement so far would have been okay, but then we have to look into the character of the person. Jacob hasn't taken the time to see what the character of Laban is, and that's where things go a bit pear-shaped. So let's go verses 21 to 27.
Finally, the time came for him to marry her. "I fulfilled my contract," Jacob said to Laban. "Now give me my wife, so we can be married." So Laban invited everyone in the neighbourhood to celebrate with Jacob at a wedding feast. That night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob, and he slept with her. And Laban gave Leah a servant, Zilpah, to be her maid. But when Jacob woke up in the morning, it was Leah. "What sort of trick is this?" Jacob raged at Laban. "I That's 7 years for Rachel. What do you mean by this trickery? It's not our custom to marry off younger daughters ahead of the firstborn, Laban replied. Wait until the bridal week is over, and you can have Rachel too. That is, if you promise to work another 7 years for me.
Yeah, I know.
So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. You got these women, yes? Yep. It's not the only story. There's a good few of them where the bloke's got a good few women. Yeah?
Yeah.
True.
And it made me wonder. So, a couple of different things. One is, when women all live together in one household, they all sync together. They all have their menstruation period at the same time. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Did you not know that?
No,
It's because, so
It's a moon cycle.
My goodness gracious
Yes.
me.
time with
That's
women.
absolutely mind-boggling.
No, I did no idea about that. No.
You both.
Well, I haven't had multiple wives, have I?
I've only had one wife.
And your daughter is
Shame
like
on
that.
me.
So it's a warning, because when your daughter gets to that age,
Yeah.
mum and daughter go.
Ah,
Because they're
okay.
both hormonal at the
So
same time.
that's the
Oh,
okay.
happy days.
That answers a lot of questions. Okay, keep going. Yeah, go.
It is a thing.
All right.
In our household, we all check in with each other at times. We're all like, I think I'm slightly early. Have you started? Oh, okay, that's fine then. It is a thing.
Amazing.
What a different world.
I'm amazed you didn't know that.
No, I had no idea.
So I question this
Yeah.
for a couple of different reasons. One is, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to put it out there.
No, just put it
He's
out.
got a favourite wife. The fact that Leah got impregnated at all is a miracle when he's got a favourite wife. And then the fact that he takes on a couple of concubines as well. I'm like, what is this bloke on?
Well, I get that he had Leah first, and then after
and then
the
it
end.
goes on, they have more children.
Yeah,
It's
after
not
that,
the
yeah,
only
yeah.
story where the
Oh,
blokes
was it?
are
And
sleeping
also
with
the
more.
children were
Yeah, Solomon had quite a few.
because
Yeah,
in this
Didn't he have a 1,000 concubines?
1,000 concubines, 700 wives. Yeah, I don't get this.
Yeah,
No,
that's just-
okay. Yeah, what's your point though? What is?
Well, the point is I'm actually surprised because there's more than one story in Genesis where, you know, there's more than one wife, and then there's the multiple concubines, and then there's, and you actually think to yourself, so personally speaking, as a woman, I wouldn't be interested in going to Leah if I was madly and passionately in love with Rebecca.
Well, he didn't know. Oh, you mean Rachel?
Rachel, I mean.
Well, he didn't know it was Leah. That's what.
But afterwards, he clearly slept with her again.
Oh yeah, lots even, because she had
Yes,
5
that's
kids.
my
Yeah,
point.
no,
That's my point.
she had 6.
Yes, she did.
That is my point. It's not, because I came to think about it, and it's not, oh look, she's on her period again. It looks like I'll go after Leah because I'm desperate.
I see what your point is. Yeah.
No, because they will have synced, they'll be having their periods at the same time, so he's clearly sleeping with her for some other reason, because he's madly and passionately in love with her.
Well, when you see an ancient
Ridiculous.
an
Yes,
ancient
it is.
Coptic wedding, the bride sits on a huge platform, a platform about the size of this
With a
settee.
jolly thick veil
Yeah,
on
no,
her.
yeah, and she's covered head to toe with regalia, and the only thing that you see is the eyes because she's covered with the veil, and everything's covered,
you're
and
seeing
she's
weak
brought
eyes.
in on a platter. You see, so then he goes to the house that he has built for his bride, and then I believe it's the father then goes and gets the bride and carries with help. Carries the bride to the groom's house, and then they start their life together.
Can you imagine how he must have felt when he woke up the next day?
Yeah, but I can't understand it. Now, hang on a minute. She's got to know where she's walking, and you can see her eyes.
Well, she wasn't walking
Now I'm
though.
going into it in depth.
No, she's on a platter.
Yeah, but her eyes are open.
Yeah.
Not
And,
only
and
that,
he must have seen her eyes. If he saw her eyes, you should have known. When you love a woman, you look in her eyes. How on
I'm
earth
with
you
him
got-
on this.
Well, okay. I'm just trying to
No,
try.
no. It happened. We don't know the circumstances
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I tried.
I'm just
But
saying.
then he went back at least another 6 times.
Exactly.
Well, I think it was more than 6 times. I think it was a
so
kind
do
of.
I, but
I think it was a kind of a regular
Show each other.
thing. Yeah.
Don't look at me.
no, because there was negotiations.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping with you tonight because I've sold you for my man race.
Yes.
Different.
And I
It's
can't
very
believe you
interesting
agreed
passage.
to that.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's one that well, that's kind of why I
The
chose it,
section-
because
What sort of a man allows his women to barter over who gets his body that night? Sorry, but
I know, it's a different era. It's a different-
yeah, that's all I can say.
sorry, Larry.
No, it baffles me too.
But the other thing that I find really repulsive about the story, can you imagine me sleeping with you and then you go and sleep with Alison?
Oh, no way. No, I can't. Okay, now you will notice one thing, however. In biblical times, what actually happened was, okay, listen, in antiquity, there was polygamy gone crazy, right?
Yeah, it was.
But you'll notice little by little, by the time you get to the time of Jesus, monogamy had installed itself.
That is very true, that is.
It no longer was polygamy, but it was a process that took many years.
Yeah.
And even some of the writings you'll see about 300 BC, you're starting to see this monogamous idea come through, and no longer is polygamy allowed. However, the Arabs still do polygamy, even now.
Yeah.
I do also wonder, the answer's probably there, but you know when he goes to see Esau and he starts to hedge his bets and he splits them into two camps. I wonder if in his heart he's thinking, if I've got to lose one camp, let it be that one.
I wonder.
Which
Yeah.
is why he sent Leah first.
I wonder that.
Yeah, I
Imagine.
wondered that too. Yeah.
But
yeah.
imagine the torment of knowing that.
Well, Leah
as a
always,
woman.
Leah always felt unloved, and she said so. She even named one of her
father
children
did her
as.
disservice.
Oh, massively.
Yeah, looking at it from her point of view, that is horrendous.
Okay, this is why I'm bringing this point
She
up.
still slept with him.
Yeah. Well, this is
She
why.
didn't have any choice.
No.
I should know.
But this is why I bring this up, is because you have to look at the character of the person before entering into agreements. I remember once in Zim, there was a man who wanted to do something, and it wasn't with me, it was someone else. He was talking about it, and he says, well, but they're not offering a contract. And I said, then don't do it. Get a contract. Yeah, but they're Christians. Good. Even the more so, get a contract. It's even more important that we as believers understand exactly
It's
what the
naivety to
parameters of the
believe.
agreement are. Huh?
It's naivety to believe that Christians don't wrong Christians.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, my goodness gracious.
And I find that absolutely appalling.
I do too, but you see, the character of
Imagine
Laban.
how Father God feels.
Eh? I know.
Imagine how Father God feels.
It's horrendous.
Now, remember how difficult it was later on for Jacob and his family to separate himself from Laban. There was nearly war. Do you remember there? And Jacob had to get very vehement with him. Had to really say, "Look, you have acted with bad faith from the very beginning of when I met you." And then he goes through the argument with him, and finally they reconcile the differences. Laban lets him go. He takes off, etc. So what happened with Jacob, I believe, was that he was looking at it a certain way because the only thing he saw was his love for Rachel. That was the motivating factor in all that he was doing, and it blinded him to what the character of his father-in-law was, and what type of lengths that he would have gone through to keep this very prosperous Jacob with him. You see, so let's go now 28 to 30. Oh, what I put is, it's obvious to me that Jacob was Laban's cash cow, and everything that Jacob undertook, he succeeded in. So once Laban saw that Jacob was no longer there, he said, I know the blessing has left. So anyway, let's read verses 28 to 30.
So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel too. And Laban gave Rachel a servant, Bilhah, to be her maid. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her more than Leah. He then stayed and worked the additional 7 years.
Okay, now what's interesting is that even before the 7 years were completed, he let Jacob have Rachel. You notice that? I don't know why he did that.
He knew he was cheating.
I I wonder because if he would have said that he would withhold her for another 7 years, I
Well,
don't think
that
that
would
Jacob
stay.
would. I don't think Jacob would have put up with that.
He would have not stayed.
No, he would. He would have probably,
Yeah.
taken his leave. I think. I agree with you on that.
I think so.
Okay, so now Jacob completes his nuptial week with Leah. Interesting enough, he says, okay, after you do your nuptial week with her, then I'm going to give you Rachel, which is quite strange. I would have hated to be Leah, poor girl. That would have been so terrible. Now Laban forces Jacob to serve another 7 years for Rachel, but Laban gives Rachel to Jacob right the week after. Okay, so the only thing he's doing is he's saying, for it to become official, you have to do 7 more years. Now, keep in mind, something like that you didn't play games with. If you were blacklisted at that time, you wouldn't be able to do business with anybody. No one would have anything to do with you. If you were not a man of your word, you were blackballed. No one would have anything to do with you.
Yeah, but
So.
he was a man of his word.
Okay, but you understand, Laban was a man of responsibility in that community
And
of
it was
Haran.
And it was his neck of the woods.
That's my point. Exactly so. It was his neck of the woods. Now, the groom, Jacob, believed the best, but because of his desires and emotions and his inability to discern the real character of his father-in-law Laban, he saw some of the worst. This is why we've always got to... Now, we're going to take our knocks, because people can be quite persuasive when they want what they want, can't they? They can be really, really deceptive, and you won't see the true self of the person in front of you many times because they want something. So they're going to be nice and charming. But as the years go by, or even months go by, you're going to see, okay, now that they've got what they want, now what's the real character of the person I'm dealing with, you see? But
I'm not good at seeing that.
I'm not either. And
Seeing what?
I'm not real good
Real
at
character.
doing that, yeah.
Seeing what?
The real character. So my father used to always say to me as a child, growing up, everybody's got something positive to offer.
Which is true.
But I think it led, in my case, to utter naivety.
Yeah, that could be. That could very well be. Especially, now it's good to believe the best. Listen, no one likes a cynical person. Do you know what I mean? No one likes someone who just always, what do you want from me? Someone who's always suspicious. However, a healthy mixture of suspicion and seeing the best is just sensible, isn't it? I always look for the good in a person. I always look for what they relate to and try to pull that out of them, in whatever capacity we're engaging in. However, I'm still looking, this is still a human being. They've still got their red button. They've still got things that I don't know what has formed them. They've got their weaknesses, as I have. So I need to tread carefully because I need to know how deep or how shallow is this person. Yeah, and listen, we got stories like that, and this is why. If we can see this before it happens, we're just better off. And now,
how do you see it?
I know.
When you open yourself up and you are totally vulnerable to somebody, how can you see it?
Well, that's true. And listen, let's be honest. I've been vulnerable to you, and you've been vulnerable to me.
Yeah.
But you could have done that to me, and I could have done that to you. But I'm not of that kind.
I can't do that.
No, and myself as well.
I'll walk away and I'll leave it.
Yeah, me too. Just leave it. Yeah, I won't try to give retribution. So some conclusions that I have on this is, first of all, Jacob, because of his love for Rachel, was not discerning as to the manipulative character of Laban. And at the beginning of his meeting with Rachel, he was basically willing to do anything to get Rachel for his wife. And how many of us are going to give 7 years of our life in labor in order for that? Now, that's a pretty heavy price to pay. If you would have said, well, if you would have said 3 mumbies or something like that, that's a different story. But
well, I think it's extraordinary that he fell in love with her at first sight.
Yeah. Now, Jacob was easily manipulated and exploited because he was blinded by his emotions. When we earnestly desire an outcome, as the man building the tower, we need to sit down and formally count the cost. Okay? Having a trusted fellow believer can be invaluable because they're not invested emotionally or otherwise. So when I'm going to do something, I will often talk to somebody who I esteem spiritually. In my case, it would be my pastor in Chertsey. I'll run things by him. I trust him. I know that he loves me. I know that he doesn't have any kind of agenda behind the scene. He, like they say in Kosa, he doesn't have a face behind the face. You know, he's quite up front. You know. So I'm gonna close this by reading Psalm 37 verse 5, and here is kind of the linchpin of what we can do to avoid unnecessary upset. Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he will do it. We have to commit our way to the Lord, because what he's going to do is he is going to give us that gift of discernment, so that when there are damaging things coming our way, we'll be able to see it before it comes, okay? Did I get the message across? It was a difficult one.